slingshot bullet that's clear. Your weak shots could it pierce the bulletproof ears. I'm on a menace. I'm leading horses to drink and pulling teeth like I'm Petey the dentist. Carry on the narrative. Beyond the narrative. Carry on the narrative. Best in class, so brave for my peers. Slingshot bullet that's clear. Your weak shots could it pierce the bulletproof ears. I'm on a menace. I'm leading horses to drink and pulling teeth like I'm Petey the dentist. Carry on the slingshot bullet that's clear. Your weak shots couldn't pierce the bulletproof ears. I'm on a menace. I'm leading horses to drink and pulling teeth like I'm feeding the dentist. Carry on the
little man, I turned into a giant. I changed the climate, every room that I'm in.
This show is brought to you by BTN Connect, powered by Athlete Narrative. Parents, you're probably spending thousands and thousands of dollars trying to get your kid recruited and going nowhere fast. But with this app for $15 a month, solves all the headaches that you're going through.
Be careful not to get too close, I might just go.
Welcome to another episode of The Crossover, brought to you by BTN Connect, powered by Athlete Narrative. It's the all-in-one recruitment app that helps athletes get signed, seen, and get to the next level. Gentlemen, I know we're battling a little bit of some weather here between you guys. I'm trying to stay a little 6 feet away.
Social distancing.
Not that I'm 6 feet, but Nevin, we know you're not 6 feet anymore.
My man,
but glad to be back. Lots to talk about, but not that much to talk about, if you know what I mean. So let's jump right into it. So tonight, finally, we get some NBA basketball. Nothing like a little small market NBA finals, but I'm interested to see what kind of let's be real, what kind of competition Indiana's going to give OKC, because right now, I mean, OKC's minus 700 to win to win the whole thing. But let's get some perspective. Like, what are you interested to see?
Well,
KD?
I think the matchup that I'm most interested in seeing is Halle versus SGA. I think you'll see a different level of why SGA is the MVP and why he's on a whole different level. But I think this is a very, balanced series. I think both teams are good. They have their style of play. I think they both have depth. I think they're both well coached. I think they both, are battle tested now through this run. Indiana a little bit more than Oklahoma City as far as the playoff intensity. But I like OKC in 6.
Okay.
Yeah, OKC in 6.
Yeah, my initial thoughts on this series was a quick sweep. Maybe Indiana steals one, but I don't think I'm giving enough credit to the Pacers, and Rick Carlisle's a Hall of Fame type coach, I believe. And, I think it'll be maybe a little bit better of a series than what I had originally thought.
Yeah,
I'm gonna echo Katie's call in OKC in 6. I think it's imperative that Indiana steal one.
Like this, yeah.
On this first,
one of these two games, they have to steal.
On these first two, because I just think it's imperative for them to make this any kind of series.
yeah.
How do you think they guard SGA? Like, do you think they throw different combos at him? Do you think they let Halle guard him straight up? I mean, obviously, there's not been a lot of success guarding him at any point except like one game in the Wolves game.
Yeah.
In the Wolves series.
I don't think they match up with Halle on SGA. I think you'll see, either Nembhard or Naismith on him. But at some point, they're going to get cross-matching, and you're going to see that matchup. You got to throw a lot of different things at SGA. At the end of the day, he's the best mid-range shooter in the game. He gets to the cup, in the top 3 in the game. He's the leading scorer in the NBA. So you're not really going to stop him from scoring. And the thing that I love about his game is that just because he goes and gets his, it does not stop Chet from getting his. It doesn't stop, Jalen Williams from getting his. And so he plays within the concept of the team. And, yeah, he's a tough cover. I think it's his year.
You think it's tougher than? I mean, obviously it's tough, but do you think they'll use some of the same tactics they use with Boston? Because Boston's got Jaylen Brown. They had, they had all sorts of options to be able to score. Again, I haven't watched enough OKC basketball up to now.
Mm-hmm.
Now I see why, but I don't know. I think, in my opinion, do you think they use some of the stuff that they use against Boston?
I think so. I think they got to stick to, their defensive principles. I think they have a lot of, defensive flexibility. They have depth, so they can throw a lot of different bodies at you. When T.J. McConnell comes in, they might have him pick up 94 feet, so they have different combinations that they can use. But I don't think they face somebody who's as good off the bounce as SGA. Tatum and Brown obviously are great wing players, but they can't necessarily create like SGA with the basketball in his hands. So I think it's a tough cover for them, but they're capable, man. Like, I'm not sleeping on this small market matchup. I think it's good for the game in a sense where a lot of people who might not have seen these teams a lot, they'll be highlighted. They'll see that these small market arenas are rocking. The field house will be rocking. OKC's fans are amazing. And so it's going to be some really great NBA basketball. It'll almost feel like a Euro Cup in a sense where like, the fans like have that kind of college camaraderie in the building. So I'm excited to see it, and I just hope all the fans tune in because I think you're going to see you're seeing the best two teams match up this year.
I think this first game is going to be an absolute shootout. I look at the total, of this game. I see 230. That's an extensively high number to set as an NBA final, and that tells me I see 250 coming in this first ride for anyone who's out there that cares about that type of stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so prime KD. All right, we're talking prime time in your day. All right, you got to guard SGA. All right, two things. What are you looking at in film, and then how do you implement that in the game if you have to cover him?
Well, I think, for me, I always was a role player. So my job was to go out and, like, play, like I was shot out of a cannon. So I would pick him up 94 feet, try and turn him twice every time he brings the ball up the court. Every time he passes the ball out, try and, get a little hit on his arm or in his stomach or something like that to, like, kind of, try and weigh him down a little bit. I would pretty much, like, send him right, even though he's a right-handed player. Like, going left, he has so many more counters and things like that. If he goes right, a lot of times all you see is, like, him create space, step back, maybe step through. But he's tough to check. He's got everything in his game. He's a 3-level scorer, and he's a great playmaker as well. And then he has this up, down, left, right, BA select star cheat code because he knows how to get fouled, and he knows how to, like, exploit your aggressiveness. And so if you're overplaying him or if you're overcommitting on him, he knows how to get that contact and get you, in foul trouble and to the line. So he's a tough check, man. He's doing something that's monumental.
I got a question for you, KD. Who does SGA's game remind you of? Going back your era to prior to him coming into the league.
Yeah, it's tough, man, because, like, you've never really seen somebody like 6'6" play the one with that pace, right? That had that kind of balance, that kind of, tempo, that kind of, like, savviness. And so he's like a combination. He's like a hybrid of a lot of different guys. I would say he would have, like, the size of a Sean Livingston, where he can get to a spot and raise up over you. I would say he has the creative ability off the dribble, like a Jamal Crawford.
I was thinking
and
the same thing.
He's got that whipper.
Great call. I was thinking the same thing. Yeah.
Right? And then he can shoot the three-pointer as well. And so it's like, and he can get fouled as well. And he's competitive on the defensive end as well. And he's cool as the other side of the pillow, man. I mean, the kid is just amazing.
Is he a legitimate top 3 player in the league? We know he's the MVP this season. Is he top 3 All-NBA right now?
Right now, I would say so.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to. Like, if you look at his run from the last 3 years, you have to put him in that conversation. I mean, obviously, consistent. His team is trending and continuing to get better. See, here's the thing. His numbers are getting better. And then the guys that he's bringing along with him as they're getting experience, their numbers are going up.
Yeah.
Right? So he doesn't have to necessarily sacrifice his game to help elevate others. He can get his and help others get theirs. It's a crazy combination that you rarely see.
Yeah, he's the top dog on the top squad.
Yeah, and that's what happens when you have a point guard being your best player. He's not just a scorer. Like, if you're Kobe, if you're Michael Jordan, you're not really worried about facilitating. And I think that's what makes SGA so special, is because, like, he's averaging 32.7 points per game, and he's still getting guys involved. It's crazy.
One last question, since we're on the SGA topic. Your top 3 players in the NBA right now. Just quick.
Shoot them.
Yeah.
Rapid fire.
Yeah. Joker, Giannis, SGA.
Okay.
All international players.
Yeah.
I was going to
By
say
the way. Yep. And, there's been a lot of talk about that, right? I am not under the impression that international players are better than U.S. homegrown players, right? Just at the top, maybe so, but holistically across the board, we still have the best hoopers on the planet at the end of the day.
I'm cool with your 3. We'll go with that. I'm all right with that.
You roll with me. Stay up under my wing. I got you. I got you, champ.
I mean, if anybody's going to know, it's going to be him.
That's why I'm asking.
So.
That's why I didn't ask you.
I mean, listen, I would have given you my opinion. I mean, probably would have been a little bit different, because, I'm just that guy. But no, but I agree with those 3. I mean, Giannis is the only one that I'm like, I don't know who I would insert in there. I'd have to take a look to see, who I would put. But I saw a couple different things with him saying, how much he impacts a game, even when he's not on the ball, he's off the ball defensively. I'm like, damn.
Yeah, look
I
at
guess-
Giannis's numbers,
Yeah,
man.
they're-
It'll blow you. It'll blow your mind.
And if he gets a new destination, watch the motivated Giannis.
You think he's gonna get like that New York destination?
I think I'm really hoping he ends up in San Antonio.
I don't know.
I think they become a real problem, man. That OKC's. I've been saying it, man. San Antonio, man. I'm buying stock in that.
I mean, he's house shopping in New York. Supposedly, his family members are buying suites in New York, whether it's New York or New Jersey. That's what I've heard across the vines. You don't buy a suite in a New Jersey arena or a Brooklyn arena if you're not, trying to end up there. So that's what I've heard along there.
Yeah.
But I think they still have to actually trade him there. He's not a restrictor.
This trade deadline situation, I know
gonna
we
be
don't,
fun. It's
we
gonna be
don't have, we
firework.
don't have it on the script, but
And so we don't. The script's a guideline.
Like, man, the trade deadline is going to be wild this year.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, there's going to be some movement.
It,
I
it
mean,
will be.
To me, that's one of the most funnest times in the NBA because you don't know what's happening. All of a sudden, you end up with this guy or that guy, and it's like, holy shit. I mean, obviously, last year it was the Luka trade.
Different hoes
You know?
and different areas.
All right. So speaking of New York, somebody that's not going to be there next season is going to be Tibbs.
Got to be more careful.
Oh man.
You think his firing was justified, or it was just a move that needed to be made and that's it?
Yeah, I mean, look, he's been the most successful coach, in that franchise's, tenure. Maybe Pat Riley had more success, but I don't think so. I think he's won more playoff, games than any other coach in New York history. I think I think the general consensus is that he's a guy who can get your program, back on track, but he hasn't proved that he can win as a head coach.
Right.
And so I don't know, who do you go and get to bring in to be able to handle that market, to have that kind of improvement, to have your team embody your personality. I think they could have done some things and tweaked their coaching staff and maybe got some, a better offensive coordinator or something like that. But I think, man, I don't like the move. And they still owe him $30 million, and I don't like the move. I thought that team was, maybe one or two, wins away from being in the finals.
Right. And we're expected to be, and we're favored to be in the final.
Yeah.
Based on going into that Eastern Conference final. Here's my 2 cents on that matter. I think James Dolan is, if not he's in the top 3. He's one of the worst owners in professional sports. That guy's an absolute fucking albatross to sports. Okay? And anyone who follows sports closely knows that. He is a straight line piece of shit. And I think that what they did to that guy is despicable.
Yeah.
Like, do you think that? I mean, obviously, I think we're in a state now where he sees the team. We're in a win now mode. Do you think that it's more detrimental to these organizations to not just let a guy develop some of these other players and try to do what an OKC does? OKC didn't win 4 years ago, but little by little they've gotten better, and now look, they're poised to win a championship.
Yeah, but they made changes. They made tweaks. And that's where, the organization and the strategy has to all come into play, because some of those moves they made through the draft, some of them they did through free agency, right? As well as develop, the talent that they had in home. So for the Knicks, I don't know if there's a better coach out there for that particular team than Tibbs.
Right.
Like at the end of the day, he
that DNA too. Man.
Like for that model of team, like they're not a fast-paced team. You know what I mean? They're not super athletic. They're not super big. Like he maximized the potential that team had.
Right.
And I don't know. I feel
Squeeze
bad
as
for
much
Tibbs.
pulp out of that juice, man, as he could, and just, man, I got to say this because like Katie and I were like cheering for the Knicks because of the fan base was just so
I feel for them.
fanatic.
They're insane.
But let me just say this about the fans.
It's a good insane, by the way.
They
not a bad one.
are, yeah. they are held in purgatory by this ownership, man, and that's why like you saw them coming apart at the seams to even be touching success like this. They've been held in purgatory for 50 years, about the same purgatory the Dolphins fans have been stuck in. And
Let's not. Let's
and-
just leave it right there.
and yeah,
Damn it.
And
25 years, no playoffs, I get it.
Just I look at ownership, man. I look at ownership like
Like, what are you doing?
The success they had, they haven't had success like this since Pat Riley was there, and they played their bully ball.
Well, didn't Jeff Van Gundy get them to the NBA Finals in the lockout year?
He did.
He did 99.
And they lost to the Spurs, right?
Yeah, 99.
So so Jeff had some success. You know, those were some good teams.
He did.
Yeah, I mean,
But-
that was also 25 years ago.
Last time the Dolphins won a playoff game. FYI.
Got to be.
But who's
Actually,
ca-
sorry, made it to the playoffs.
but who's counting?
Yeah, not me. So, so a lot of Tibbs, for me, Tibbs has built his teams kind of like the same exact way. You know, the Bulls had like a similar aura to them. You know, really guard dominant with D Rose. You know, Cat kind of reminds me a little bit of Joakim, even though Joakim was a little bit more of a, to me, was more of a dog on the boards and on the offensive glass. The Wolves had kind of a similar built team. You know, does a build like that? Does Tibbs get another job somewhere else?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, because he's a guy who can, repair programs, right? And, bring culture to a team, right? And change the mindset and maximize the potential that those teams have. So I think Tibbs will see another shot at it. But there's this little shifting in the way that coaches are being viewed, right? There's these younger coaches who get in their first jobs, their first opportunities, who kind of, fit the mold of the new age player. And also, it's just the older coaches are struggling, with these
adapt,
new transitions, right?
Like Missoula in Boston, I think he got his shot and is like, I'm out. I am not giving this shit back.
Yeah, man. I mean, these young coaches, man, they're brilliant. They're tough. A lot of them, have experience. They work their way up through the film room. And so it's just like a little change in how, coaches, the
Cyclical.
track.
Cyclical,
Yeah.
like everything else in life.
But I still think that maybe New York should look at Mark Jackson.
Man, I thought of that too.
I mean, he
at the end of
built
the day.
a dog in Golden State. Steve Kerr just reaped the benefits
Bro,
of
he's
it.
homegrown, man.
Oh, my God,
Could you get a better? And maybe the fan base will give James Dolan a reprieve if he brings.
Yeah, man, Mark Jackson.
Mark Jackson would be a great.
He would be a
pickup.
good fit. He would be a good fit.
KD on that one, man.
Yeah,
Especially, you heard it here first. Mark Jackson to the Knicks.
I would love to see it.
It's gonna happen. We're just gonna fabricate it, and we're just gonna start pumping it out on reels, and it's gonna have to happen. I mean, in my mind, what a crazy pickup that would be. A guy that played there a ton of his career, also played for Indiana as well.
He's a Queens guy, man.
I know, but that would be such a great pickup. Great pickup.
Queens, that's it. He's born for that.
What do you think the Knicks do? You think they take a step back next season? You think this is going to be the top they have, or you think with some changes and some different coaching, they can get back to being a contender in the East?
Yeah, I don't think they'll be able to replicate the success that they had this season. I just don't think they're talented enough. I don't think they have enough weapons. I don't think they have enough depth. I don't think Cat, has the defensive prowess to be able to, impact the game on both ends. Though he had career years.
What do you mean?
Like I just laterally, I just feel like defensively, and Tibbs is a defensive coach,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So, but I think those flaws kind of came out. I think Brunson was attacked in the playoffs as well, and so I think they're going to have to play with a faster pace. I don't think they have enough shooting in order to play with that fast pace like that. So it's going to be a clash of styles. They got to get somebody in there who kind of fits, the talent that they have assembled.
Gotcha. I mean, speaking of shooting, now we're going to go to this. All right, reports are out there. Tyler Hero projectedly to sign a 3-year, $149 million deal with the Heat, an extension. 23.9 a game, 5 assists, 6 boards, led the Heat in both playmaking and scoring. I think we had this conversation. My opinion, is he worth that money after what we saw in the playoffs?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's absolutely worth it. I mean, an all-star player, the leading scorer on a team, I wouldn't call him a superstar, right?
Yet.
That's why he was not going to get the super max, right? But there is a slot for that type of player, and that is the going rate. And I think we got to kind of normalize that this is the money that the business is generating. It's not the mid-level exception anymore. It is that, these guys make a lot of money, and he's producing. At the end of the day, Tyler has developed. He's homegrown. We developed him from being a rookie to an all-star player. And, yeah, it's the market, and I think they should re-sign him.
Oh, no, I mean, who else are we going to get? There's not a huge market out there. But the Heat just had this notorious thing where, we saw with Hassan Whiteside. They panicked. They didn't know who to pay. We paid him $100 million. He played here a couple years, and he's, we had to ship him out. So we ended up paying that huge contract. To me, with Hassan, we never helped develop him to his full potential. He went I think to Sacramento afterwards. He played for a little bit and then.
Well, H had some good years. You don't get paid off of your future, right? You get paid off of like your potential and what your earning power is in that free agency, right?
Right.
And like H during that time, he was like one of the tops in rebounding and blocks,
shot blocking. He was a monster.
Averaged close to 20 points a game, so he was pretty dominant. But also, like, the Heat have gotten some discounts, man. They've gotten some good players down here on minimum deals as well, right? Udonis gave them, discounts for years.
So did D Wade.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, man, like, this is the market. You can't develop Tyler like this. He's turned into an all-star player, and then not pay him.
It's what the market bears. I mean, it's really a simple, like, concept. It's what the market bears. He's getting paid what this market reflects.
Facts.
So Kitty, let's give the viewers a little peek behind the curtain, because this is something I've always wondered. To me, we lost Wade to go to Chicago for $4 million. The difference was $4 million. All right. Obviously, for somebody like me, I'm like, just pay the money. Pay him the money. How does it work in some of these negotiations when you're negotiating a contract that you see the number that separates you is $4 million and the organization just can't get it done? Like, what do you do in that type of negotiation when you're negotiating a contract and you see that gap and you just can't get there?
Yeah, you just take it or leave it. Sometimes teams have a bottom line, which they're willing to go to, and they're not willing to go over that. So in that case, Chicago made a better offer. D-Wade got a chance to go back and play in his home city that he grew up in, and it left a bad taste in his mouth. So there was some tension between him and the Heat for a while. Obviously, they were able to reconcile that. He's got his statue out there and all that. But, it's just business at the end of the day. And you can either take it or leave it. And he chose to leave it.
In that case, specifically, I think the Heat were wrong.
100%.
I think D-Wade.
You pay him whatever you got to do.
That big three never happens without D-Wade.
Taking the discounts, too.
He towed the company line, man, for that place for a long time. And, I'm glad things worked out, and he's beloved down here. Probably arguably the most popular athlete ever. I'd say Dan Marino would be the other, right? But like in this generation, D Wade's.
It was Wade County.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
He walks on water, man. And honestly, and I think the Heat were wrong in that thing. I think Pat Riley knows it too. Later on, he came to terms with that, but. That was a pissing contest that shouldn't have been.
Should have never happened.
Yeah, that's true, and I think they both know. And I think D Wade regrets that he had to go, but he wasn't wrong either for making that move.
No, well, he said the reason I'm asking is he said it a couple times on his podcast, and they asked him about the situation in Miami. He's like, there's two sides to this. The fan only sees what's in it for the fan. Like there's a business side to this. We got to make business decisions. We're a business, and I'm like, damn. Obviously, I know that there's a business side to it, but like when you hear him breaking it down, it's like we're a business. We're out here to make a business for our family. We're out here. We got families to support too. So he said that he made a business decision, and he said when he got there, he was like, yeah, I'm ready to do this, and he realized that he's like, man, what a different shift. It goes from a team that is practicing a certain way to like where I came from, that there's, no accountability. And he's like, dude, if you guys are not going to be ready in practice, you're not going to be ready in the game. He said he instantly knew is like, what he had in Miami. And, unfortunately, he just had to make a business decision.
Katie said it, man. They gave him a statue, and he deserves even though I don't like
we should
what
still
the
be paying him now.
like. Even though I don't like what the statue looks like, he deserves every bit of that bronze, man.
We should be paying him now still.
Yeah.
For all the shit that he did.
Yeah, he put on for the city.
Yeah,
But,
he did.
but listen, we got a very important matchup on Friday, tomorrow. All right. I don't know if you guys have heard this. Lance Stevenson, Michael Beasley, 1v1 for $100,000. Games up to 30 with 2s and 3s. Off the top of your head, who are you taking?
I'm taking Michael Beasley.
The Bees?
Yeah, I'm taking Bees over damn near anybody one-on-one. And I think they got a 4-dribble rule. So that fits his game. I think his size, his skill, like Bees is a beast. Like one-on-one, like it's hard to check him. And it's always been like that. So I'm taking Bees. I think Lance is a guy, who thrives more in a 5-on-5 game, playing in the pick and roll, patting the ball, New York City typical guy, right? So I think the matchup is going to be Bees all day. I think Bees will beat him 30-22.
Okay. What do you got?
I'm not going against this.
Oh no,
guy's
man. I'm
prediction.
taking Beasley too.
Man,
I
I'm
mean,
not going against this guy's prediction, even though I do agree. Lance Stevenson, he's got a little skip to my Lou.
He got some flair.
but
you
you
know,
can only
Got some
dribble
flair.
4 times.
Yeah, well, hence we're taking Michael Beasley.
So Mike Beasley, he's bigger. He's bigger, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not even close.
I mean, I'm taking Beasley too, just from just the size of the fact
But
that
it's cool
I've
though.
loved him.
I like the concept. You know, I think it's great that guys get to, you know, it's almost taking like a boxing match type persona with the way they've been marketing it. And you know what I mean, doing the behind the scenes stuff and things like that. But I think it's really cool, man, that basketball is being digested not just from an NBA or a college basketball standpoint. Like it's almost like and one in a sense where like street ball is like gotten more refined and more disciplined and more structure, and there's resources there. There's people who are interested in it, and I think it's dope to see these guys continue to play.
I won't lay a wager until I find out who Nico has.
Nico's going with B.
He's going with Beasley.
Nico, do I hear anything from the gallery? All right. He's researching my Russian ping pong tournament tonight.
How much shit talking do you think is going to be in that game?
You know what? I think it'll be a lot of shit talking, especially from Lance. Like Lance has got the gift of gab. Like Bees talks like, you know what I mean? Like it's not like for no reason.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I think, you know, it'll be a lot of shit talking. I think that's something that kind of gets Lance going. Remember, he blew in LeBron's ear. Like Lance is known as a shit talker.
That worked out well for him.
And he's good at it too. Like he's good
get
at
him in your
talking
skin.
shit. He's got a lively personality. So it'll be fun. I mean, look, Lance is cold. Don't trip. Lance had a great NBA career. Lance is a New York City legend, you know, on the playgrounds. Lance had a good college career at Cincinnati. So
Staying
he's
in
tough.
shape?
Man, looking at it, man, Lance looks like he's in shape. B's just like always is in shape. He plays year round. One-on-ones like Mike Beasley beats like 99% of the world.
Fuck. That's crazy.
Seriously, he's that good one-on-one.
All right. Jumping onto shit talking. Noah Lyles. Dropping some.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say who.
The track guy. The track guy.
No, I
you see
know.
once every 4 years.
No, I know.
So he was on a podcast that he was basically just, you know, up in arms with Adidas because Adidas, you know, doesn't want to market him, you know, doesn't want to give him a shoe. You know, and he said on the line, he's like, Anthony Edwards gets a shoe. Why can't I get a shoe?
He sounds like a hater.
Man, that's the
Yeah.
one. Man, you read my mind,
No,
man.
real
Everything
talk.
I'm
He
ready
sounds
to
like
say,
a
man.
hater. I think the approach that he's taken with his platform, I think, you know, he didn't get good advice with that because that was an opportunity during the Olympics to really like build a bond with those guys, get some of their brand equity. You know what I mean? Build a relationship,
Align
get
with
them
them.
to
Align
come
with
out
them.
and support me, right? And things like that. He took this hardline stance that like, I'm a world champion and who were they? Just NBA players.
Right.
And
World champion of what?
yeah, and at the end of the day, man, we love and respect track and field. We've always have, right? I mean, I remember Michael Johnson and Carl Lewis and Maurice Green and those guys putting on for the country. But those guys had enough charisma. Those guys had enough of understanding to know that the dream team being there makes our platform a little
Way
bit
bigger.
bigger, right? And I just think he handled it the wrong way, and he turned a lot of people off when he did it.
Yeah, I agree.
Well said, man. Hater, man. That's some hating type shit, man. You know, like the NBA guys, you know, like they're sexy, man. Like that's what it is. It's just a fact. Like it's known. You know what I mean? And they get big money for a reason.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I'm saying? And that's no disrespect, no knock on the track and field game because my dad has always brought me up loving that stuff, going back when
To the
into
30s.
Yeah, man, to the 30s, right? But yeah, what he did is, you know, it's like it's some hating shit, and I didn't dig it. I don't even pay mind to it, to be honest with you. And Anthony Edwards don't have to apologize or even respond.
I don't even think Anthony Edwards knows who he is at this point. I mean, I'm sure he does, but if I was Ant, I'd be like, bro, like, come on.
I mean, and if that's your
Like, you can't tear your brother
if
down.
that's your play to get a marketing deal, it didn't work.
Listen, whoever's advising you, come to Beyond Media. We'll take care of all your stuff. Trust me. Whoever's advising you, fire them.
We got you.
Not good. We got you. All right. Speaking of, you know, actually, I meant to segue earlier. If we had to take the over-under, who's going to have more people at their game? Is it Lance Stevenson versus Mike Beasley, or the Marlins and the Rockies? Who would you take?
Oh, I'm a go. I think where's the game? The game is at Columbus High School. Yeah, that gym would be packed out, right?
So it's gonna have more. It's gonna have more games, more people than the Rockies and the Marlins. Obviously, they're two dog shit teams, but 5,800 people at a baseball game.
You know, I was watching that the other day, and I really couldn't even believe it. This city doesn't even deserve a baseball team at this point in time. You know, it's sad to say, man, because we've won 2 World Series titles. The Cubs waited 100 and something years to win 1. We won 2 in like 5 years,
Beating them in the process.
right? The Red Sox was, you know,
Another one.
they went through the curse of the Bambino 100 years.
But that stadium's packed night in, night out.
Listen,
Like you won't find.
and you know, and that just shows you, you know, Miami is a front runner city, right? It is. I mean, we've all been here our whole lives, and when you're winning, we're a problem as a fan base, and when you're not, you got 137 people, at the game, which is incredible, and it just, I can't say that ownership hasn't been part of the problem, because they have been.
I think the prior ownership is what really screwed up everybody with Jeffrey Loria and this guy.
My biggest personal beef with this Miami Marlins franchise is they destroyed the
Orange Bowl.
The Orange Bowl for this.
And you didn't get your seat.
Crazy, man. Like that's crazy.
What's the worst arena you ever? What's the least arena you ever played in? How hard is it to play in that if it's empty?
I mean, I couldn't. Shit, man, a lot of that stuff is a blur at this point. But most of the teams, like when I was coming up in the NBA, like had good fan bases. So like you always have a good crowd.
Is it hard to play in an empty arena?
You know what? During the pandemic, I was a coach at this time. That was difficult.
Yeah.
There was no fans there, and you know you could have a few family members there, and you had to socially distance.
Like
and
a practice.
There was like
right?
you know fake noise and things like that. So that was tough. But I also was in the bubble, and I got a chance to like be at those games in the bubble. And believe it or not, man, it was some of the best basketball. I felt like I was in 2K.
Yeah.
Like I literally felt like I was inside 2K in like this simulation, so to speak,
Crazy.
man. It was dope, man. And those guys were focused. They were locked in. They played great basketball, and they were professional. That bubble was a lot harder than people give them credit for. And the Lakers being able to win in that bubble, to me, was very impressive because, man, it was hard to be away from
outside
family.
noise, right?
It
no
was
outside
it was
noise,
tough.
man.
It was very tough.
You really find out who's like that.
Yeah, man. But you got to see so much bonding. You got to see Joker and Luka walking, you know, every day. You got to see guys out there fishing, guys, you know, having like it was a great environment.
Great insight.
It was dope.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're about to wrap up the show, and as I always do on my when I'm allowed to do it, I always recap the Panthers.
Okay.
Because I have suffered through the 74 fans and the Stees. Like Panthers for me, when they came out in 1993, I thought it was the coolest thing ever because we didn't have a hockey team. So I've always been a diehard Panthers fan. John Van Beesbrook, Scott Mellenby. Nobody can tell me that they know more Panthers than me because they don't know that we had a guy named Johan Garpenloff. And if you don't know it, you don't know it. But you've got to be a lifelong fan. You weren't even born. Shut up.
Jonathan Suarez says he's
Shut up, Jonathan Suarez. So the Panthers drop the game in overtime, give up 4 goals in 2 periods. Honestly, Bob had 40 saves. You can't ask more than that. We gave up a goal with 30 seconds left, or under 30 seconds, on a power play in overtime on the stupidest penalty in the history of the world, of flipping a puck over the goddamn ice, over the wall. Honestly, I think the guy had the over and he just flipped it over because he was going to make more money than his salary, but that's just my take. If you guys got anything else?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a great series.
Fuck, I just didn't want to play Edmonton, man. Connor McDavid's so goddamn good.
Yeah, man.
Like, what's crazy to me is, I don't know how much of a nut you guys are more than me, but like the difference in speed, all right? And I don't know if you've noticed this. Whenever they're getting ready to attack, they will fucking wind him all the way back. They will bring all their players to center ice, and they pass it to him. And he is coming full head steam, hell on wheels, down the pipe, and he just... I don't know if you noticed that.
No,
All right, so when you watch that next game,
All right, I'll be looking forward.
When you see that they're going to run a set play, all right, you'll see all their forwards come to the center ice. One defenseman will wait on the line, and he winds all the way back, and they will dump it to him right in front of their goalie, and he comes right down the pipe.
Gotcha. I'll be looking forward.
Crazy the difference in speed. I think the Panthers are exhausted, obviously, from traveling to the West, but I don't know. I'm not as confident as I was if they would have won this game at 1-0. Now I'm like, fuck. We gotta beat these. We gotta beat these demons.
Don't be a Marlins fan.
Oh
buddy.
hell no, no.
Stay with it.
I'm telling you, I've suffered through
Stick
the
to
Marlins.
it.
I've suffered through the Marlins too. You know, I went to their first opening game against the Dodgers. Charlie Huff was the pitcher.
Gotcha.
Come on, dog. All right, this wraps it up with us with
Let's go.
with Memory Lane. Hope you boys feel better, and we'll see you guys on
All
Monday.
right, appreciate you,
All right,
champ.
peace.
We out.
All right, good, man.
No losses, I don't do lipo. A few screws loose in the head, I'm a psycho. Promise you the bar just as real as the bite though. Misunderstood, you could call me a typo. I shine hotter than the stars in the night.